What if your greatest gift, your intelligence, could also be your heaviest burden? Did you know that history's brightest minds, from Nietzsche to Van Gogh to Tesla, often paid a devastating psychological price for their genius? Today, we're embarking on a journey to uncover the hidden cost of exceptional intelligence. Why do brilliant minds suffer so deeply? How does seeing the world so clearly lead to isolation, overthinking, and existential weight? And most importantly, how can we harness our mental intensity to create something extraordinary without letting it overwhelm us? Let's begin with one of the most haunting lines in philosophy, from Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. If you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. This isn't just a clever phrase, it's a raw, lived warning from a man who stared into that void. For Nietzsche, the abyss wasn't physical but cognitive, a mental space where the beliefs most people rely on, religion, morality, social norms, crumble under scrutiny. When you're exceptionally intelligent, your mind becomes a relentless questioner, picking apart the foundations others take for granted. That's the abyss, and it can leave you feeling adrift in our own thoughts. Take Alan Turing, the genius who cracked the Enigma code and laid the groundwork for modern computing. His analytical brilliance saved lives, but it couldn't reconcile the irrational prejudices of his time. Society praised his contributions but rejected him personally, not because his logic was flawed, but because it was too clear. Or consider Hypatia of Alexandria, a 4th-century philosopher and mathematician whose commitment to truth made her a threat to those in power, leading to her tragic end. These stories reveal a pattern. Exceptional intelligence often means seeing through society's illusions, and that clarity can come at a cost. Nietzsche called this the death of God, but it's not just about religion. It's the realization that the values we treat as absolute, justice, purpose, morality, are human constructs. This hands you a terrifying freedom. You're responsible for creating your own meaning in a universe that offers none. It's like standing on a cliff with no guardrails, the wind howling around you. Have you ever had a moment where you questioned something so deeply, maybe a belief, a tradition, or a system, that it left you feeling alone? That's the abyss staring back. Now, let's talk about the loneliness that comes with seeing too much. Nietzsche, echoing Schopenhauer, wrote, "To be alone is the fate of all great minds." This isn't just about enjoying your own company, it's an existential isolation that comes from perceiving layers of reality others can't see. Nikola Tesla is a striking example. His mind could visualize entire electrical systems in vivid detail, dreaming up alternating current and wireless technology decades before they became reality. But that hyper-awareness made human connection nearly impossible. He once said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine." That's a powerful mindset, but it's also profoundly lonely. By his later years, Tesla found more comfort in pigeons than people. Or take Srinivasa Ramanujan, the Indian mathematician whose intuitive genius produced formulas that seemed almost otherworldly. At Cambridge, surrounded by brilliant minds, he was still an outsider. His thinking was too unique, his cultural background too different. That isolation, both intellectual and personal, wore him down, contributing to his early death. Modern neuroscience explains why this happens. Social rejection lights up the same brain pathways as physical pain. For highly intelligent people, this can become a chronic ache, not because you're weak, but because your brain is wired to see what others miss. Have you ever felt like an outsider because of how you think? Maybe you shared an insight, a big idea, or a hard truth, and got blank stares or pushback. That gap between you and others is real, and it can hurt. But here's the silver lining. That isolation can be the seed of your greatest insights. It's 3 a.m., the world's asleep, but your mind is racing. Ideas, questions, connections swirling in endless loops. This isn't just insomnia, it's what researchers call relentless mental loop, and it's a hallmark of high intelligence. Nietzsche referenced this in On the Genealogy of Morals. The bad conscience is an illness, but an illness as pregnancy is an illness. That constant mental churn can feel like torture, but it's also the spark of creation. Neuroscience backs this up. Highly intelligent brains have hyper-connected neural networks, like superhighways linking regions that don't usually communicate. This lets you spot patterns and make leaps others miss. Think of it as the wiring of genius. But it also means your thoughts can cascade, jumping from one idea to another in a relentless cycle. Psychologists call this rumination, recursive overthinking that can spiral into worry or anxiety. Vincent van Gogh lived this. His vision transformed how he saw light, color, and motion, giving us masterpieces. But he wrote, "I put my heart and soul into my work and have lost my mind in the process." His brilliance and his pain were inseparable, tied to a mind that couldn't rest. Here's a quick experiment to feel this for yourself. For 60 seconds, try not to think about anything. Go ahead, give it a shot. Shados. Hard, right? Your mind probably started thinking about not thinking. For brilliant minds, this is constant, a spirit of gravity, as Nietzsche called it, weighing you down with endless reflection. But what if you could channel that intensity into something powerful? Let's hold that thought and move to the next layer of this burden: cognitive empathy. Brilliant minds don't just feel for others, they understand suffering on a deep, systemic level. Most people can hear about a crisis, a child in hardship, an ecosystem collapsing, an injustice, and move on thanks to mental filters that protect them. But if you're highly intelligent, those filters are often missing. Your brain models the world's pain, from individual stories to global systems, and it won't let you look away. Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring, saw the environmental impact of chemicals before anyone else. Her clarity sparked a movement, but it came with personal anguish. She wrote, "Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength, yet she carried the weight of destruction others could ignore." Emmy Noether, a mathematical genius, reshaped physics but grappled with the ethical fallout of her work's applications, like technologies that fueled war. Or consider Simone Weil, a philosopher who felt the world's suffering so deeply she lived in solidarity with the oppressed, even at the cost of her health. For example, when was the last time you felt overwhelmed by a truth you couldn't unsee? Maybe it was a social issue, a global problem, or a personal insight. That's cognitive empathy at work, and it's both a gift and a challenge. Here's where things get dangerous, such as when intelligence reveals truths that threaten the status quo. Edward Snowden, with his technical and ethical clarity, exposed global surveillance in 2013, sacrificing his career, home, and safety. Galileo, centuries earlier, faced house arrest for saying the Earth orbits the Sun. Nietzsche saw this coming in Beyond Good and Evil. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. Speak the truth, and you risk rejection. Stay silent, and you betray your own understanding. This is what Nietzsche called the herd instinct, society's need for shared narratives, like justice or progress, to function. Those stories hold groups together, but often crumble under scrutiny. Frances Haugen, the Facebook whistleblower, saw how algorithms harmed users and chose to speak up, knowing the cost. Or think of Socrates, whose relentless questioning of Athenian values led to his execution. For brilliant minds, this creates cognitive dissonance. You see the world's flaws but still have to live in it. Navigating that tension without becoming cynical or disengaged is a skill. Let's reflect. Have you ever seen a truth that felt too big to share? Maybe it was about your workplace, your community, or even society itself. How did you handle it? Hold that thought. We're about to see how these challenges can become your greatest strength. Now, the light at the end of the tunnel. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." That chaos, your overthinking, your empathy, your isolation, can fuel extraordinary creation. Beethoven, going deaf, could have despaired. Instead, he composed his late quartets in silence, turning pain into genius. Frida Kahlo, bedridden after a devastating accident, channeled her suffering into vibrant, raw art. Creativity isn't just expression, it's how brilliant minds regulate their intensity. Neuroscience supports this. Creative expression activates reward pathways, easing stress and giving chaotic thought structure. For brilliant minds, it's a lifeline, Think of Ada Lovelace, whose visionary work on early computing came from a mind that saw patterns others couldn't, but also wrestled with personal turmoil. What's your creative outlet? Writing, music, coding, design, or even systems thinking. Find a medium that fits your mind and make it a habit. Creativity turns the abyss into insight, isolation into perspective, and empathy into action. It's what Nietzsche meant by the Übermensch, creating new values from chaos. Think of one insight that's weighed you down. How could you turn it into something creative? Maybe it's a story, a project, or a solution. Nietzsche's story ends tragically. He collapsed in 1889, overwhelmed by his own mind after trying to protect a mistreated horse. But it wasn't inevitable. John Nash, despite severe mental challenges, developed a diet of the mind, selectively engaging with his thoughts to return to mathematical work and win a Nobel Prize. Temple Grandin, with her unique autistic perspective, revolutionized animal welfare by embracing her different way of thinking, saying, "I am different, not less." Your intelligence isn't a burden, it's a lens. The key is balance, not suppressing your mind's intensity, but mastering it. Here are 5 practical tools to help. Curate your information intake. Your mind craves knowledge, but too much can overwhelm. Choose quality over quantity. Focus on deep, meaningful sources. Build a personal philosophy. Whether it's Stoicism, existentialism, or your own framework, having a system for big questions prevents endless mental loops. Find your cognitive tribe. Online communities, forums, or niche projects can connect you with others who think like you, reducing isolation. Make creativity a habit. Regular expression, writing, art, or problem-solving turns raw insight into something tangible. Practice mindfulness with a twist. Instead of silencing your mind, observe its patterns and guide them toward creation, not rumination. Let's reflect one last time. How could you apply one of these tools to your life? Maybe it's starting a journal, joining a philosophy group, or setting boundaries on news consumption. Write it down. This is your roadmap to carrying your brilliance well. We've journeyed through an abyss of knowledge, the pain of isolation, the weight of overthinking, and the power of creation. Exceptional intelligence isn't a curse, it's a responsibility to see clearly and create wisely. Nietzsche also said, "The secret of reaping the greatest fruitfulness is to live dangerously." Your mind's intensity isn't a weight to shed, it's a height to master. Learn to breathe its thinner air and let your chaos birth a dancing star. Until next time, keep questioning, keep creating, and carry your brilliance well.